Have you ever noticed how some business owners seem to have it all? They're making great money, taking long vacations, and their business is running without them there. Meanwhile, others are working 60 plus hours a week. Their phones are blowing up nonstop. And despite making revenue, they still aren't taking home enough money. So, what's their secret? It's not luck or working harder. After helping businesses in over 40 different industries add 50 to 500K in profit to their businesses, I've discovered that this comes down to two things: self-managing teams and self-managing systems. And today I'm going to show you how to install both into your business. So, we've all heard of working on your business versus working in your business. But this really is the difference between a business owner who feels trapped by their business and a business owner who has achieved freedom in their business. When you're constantly working in the business, you're actually even more tied down than if you were to go work for someone else. Everything ends up relying on you, and you aren't able to hand anything over, which means you can't take vacations, you can't take time off, you can't even get sick, or in my case, take a maternity leave when you have a baby. So there's definitely something to be said about business owners who have figured out how to move into that position of working on their business instead of being the one in the day-to-day all the time. And this is why I love working with so many different service industries, is because yes, each business has their unique problem I get to try to help them through, but at the end of the day, everyone's trying to do the same thing. Everyone's trying to get freedom from their business, and everyone ends up being the bottleneck that is keeping them from that freedom. I can very easily see this when I get on a call with someone and they're telling me they're working long hours, they're missing events for their kids, they haven't been able to take a vacation, they are exhausted and burnt out. These are all signs that they are too busy working in the business and not on the business. These are four pillars that are in every business, no matter what industry you're in. Every business needs to sell their product or service, deliver what was sold, and then they need to get new customers to sell and deliver to. And this is a cycle that's constantly happening over and over in the business. And then management is that fourth pillar here at the top, which holds this engine together. So what ends up happening with owners is they are down in this engine. This is the day-to-day. This is the working in the business, not on the business, when they're down here and sell, deliver, and get new customers. But the owner really wants to be up here in management. So let's take a look at what this looks like. So how it should be is you've got employees in each pillar here, right? You've got some in delivery. You usually have the most in delivery. You've got some people in your marketing, you've got some people in sales, even if these are subcontractors doing your marketing, whatever it may be. And then the owner should be up here in management. But what ends up happening is the owner is down here bouncing around between these, right? Getting pulled in all directions. Hey, boss, what do you need here? Hey, what do we do here? Oh, I need a bypass here, and I must be the one to do this, or I must be the one to do this. And then you just feel like you're bouncing around like a ping pong ball all across the business. So the ideal situation is to have the owner where they should be, which is up here in management. This is because your employees are specialized, right? They are in their own pillars or departments or divisions or whatever you want to call it in your business. You have people who specialize in delivery. You have people who specialize in marketing, etc. So you as the owner need to specialize in being the owner and being the manager. Now, this doesn't just mean managing the day-to-day and managing people's schedules and signing off their PTO. So being the manager or owner in this sense means you are the leader. You're not just managing the day-to-day, signing off on people's PTO and all of that. You are guiding the ship. You are telling everyone where you're going, what the future is, what goals need to be hit. You are the one determining the future path of the business and what the next steps are that need to be executed by the company as a whole. But what ends up happening is if the owner is stuck down here in delivery or sales, let's say, then the whole business now depends on the owner selling. This happens a lot. The owner should be the best salesperson in the organization, but that doesn't mean that they should be stuck there and doing it daily. They should be able to turn that over. But if the owner is stuck here, then nothing else is going to move forward. Everything stops there. That now means no one is steering the ship, right? The owner's back there dealing with sales problems and can't think about the fact that their slow season is coming up and they need to plan for that, or they need to plan for new hires because the delivery team is overloaded. They don't have the brain capacity or time to be handling these management problems they should be handling. So, this is why it's so important for the owner to figure out how to get out of the day to day and up into management. So, how does a business owner do this without losing control and being able to ensure that the business is still running to the quality and standards that they want? The way you do this is by having proper metrics in place. I know that sounds really boring and no one wants to talk about numbers, but the truth is, you need to know what is going on in your business without you having to be there hovering over everyone. And the way to do that is by tracking the data. This also means that you're no longer going based off of feelings and what he said and how everyone feels. No, just go based off of the data. This is working. This isn't working. How are we going to solve it? Now, the key with metrics is you want to make sure you are tracking the correct things. You could track 100 different data points across your business. And yes, I'm sure you would get some information out of that, but that's just way too much. It would be information overload, and it would be hard to tell which of those data points is actually important to tell you the story of what's happening in your business and what you need to do to keep moving forward. So what I want you to do to start is to track at least one number per pillar for now. You definitely will need more, especially in something like sales, where it's really important to track every step of the sales process. But so you don't get overwhelmed and so that this is an actual easy thing to implement and get a win on, you can at least start tracking something for each pillar. So what this could look like is for sales, you should at least have closed sales. So maybe that's a number like you've closed 5 sales this week or 10 sales this week, whatever it is. Again, there are a ton of sales stats you should be keeping, but that's a good place to start. For management, I would say that's where you would track your revenue because that's the measure of the health of the business as a whole, is that money is still coming in. Without money, without revenue, you aren't going to last. Again, there's a lot more under management you could be tracking, but I'm trying to keep it simple here. For delivery, you want to track how much was delivered. Did X amount of widgets go out this week? Did X amount of social media assets go out this week? Did X amount of consulting hours happen? Whatever that looks like for you. You want to make sure that your delivery pillar is keeping up and actually delivering on what you are selling. For marketing, number of leads. You want to know, that's how you know if your marketing is working, is if the leads are coming in. You can monitor, how many ads you're doing, how much your ad spend is, how many impressions. There's 500 different marketing things that you can monitor. But at the end of the day, marketing's purpose is to get qualified leads. So that is the statistic I would start with in that pillar. So let's look at what this looks like within our 4 pillars. So each pillar has a little metric here that's graphed so you can easily see where it stands. And then what's cool about this is you can make each metric, each employee is responsible for a metric. So with these 4 that you're starting with, you can start with your managers, the person over sales, the person over delivery, marketing, etc. If you don't have a manager there, then that means you are responsible for that metric. But now you can easily see as the owner at a glance where the business stands. All right, delivery is doing good, sales is doing good, management is doing good. Man, what's over here? Our leads are down. I'm going to go talk to our marketing agency and see why. Oh, Facebook shut off our ad. We need to get that ad back up and running. That's how you troubleshoot what is going wrong in a business. This also gives you prediction. Okay, your leads are down, which means you got to mentally prepare that sales is going to have a harder time if you don't do something now. Okay, we know our leads are down, so we're going to have less closes, less in the pipeline. That means our sales guy needs to go out and work on contacting old leads or getting upsells or recurring things from new customers. This is how you know when to pivot in these different pillars. This is also why it's so important to have regular weekly meetings to actually look at these numbers. You could, yes, track these in a spreadsheet or a fancy software, but then they just collect virtual dust, so to speak, if you aren't actually looking and using them. So I know we all hate meetings and we're all too busy to have meetings, but a weekly meeting is really important to assess these numbers all together as a team or as a management team so that you can see what's working and not working in the business and make sure you have a plan to catch anything like your leads being down or something like that. Hey, I want to interrupt myself here. I hope you're getting value from this, but I want to give you something even better. We've now opened up our calendar for profit assessments this month. This is a free assessment where we will take a look at your financial situation, identify any profit leaks in your business, and show you an action plan of how you can add 50 to 500K profit in your business and install the systems that I'm talking about today. This isn't just an automated report or download. This is a real conversation with my team. Just click the link below to grab your spot before they're gone. Now let's get back to the systems that build a truly free CEO. Most meetings fail because they don't have an agenda or they aren't actually necessary. So they either get way off track, take way too long, and waste everyone's time, or it was something that could have been sent in an email. So I like to make my weekly meetings have the same cadence. They happen at the same time. The agenda is the same and they are quick and snappy. If you've got a 10-person team that you are having a whole team staff meeting with, you are paying them all to be there. So you want to make sure that it's efficient and quick. This meeting should go over all of the metrics in every part of the business so that everyone is on the same page and knows what's happening in the rest of the business. You should address any problems and what the solutions to those problems are. This meeting is not to problem solve. This is just to tell everyone, hey, we had this problem with our Facebook ads and we solved it by doing this, and it's never going to happen again because now we check the ads every week, whatever that may be. You want to share any wins. This helps keep your team's morale up. It reminds them that they're doing this for something. And then you also want to go over any project program steps if you have a smaller team. So let's say this is like a leadership meeting, which is very valuable. You can coordinate on actual action steps and who's doing what for the week. If you have a larger staff, you might not want to get into that much detail on an all staff meeting. And for bigger staffs, you have your managers who are accountable for each of these things during the all staff meeting. So the managers are the ones that present the numbers, present any problems and solutions, and they're kind of the representatives of their area. So it's actually pretty crazy what you can learn from these metrics in your business. I had a client and we started tracking just simply revenue. He wasn't tracking it before. You may or may not be tracking it now. But what's interesting is when we started to see revenue dip, we immediately got into action. Okay, what's going on? What's causing this dip? And it was very easy to trace to a new hire. The revenue dipped as soon as the new hire came on board because this new hire was not productive enough. They were moving slow. They were not getting enough billable hours for their industry. So we were easily able to catch this, make a tweak, let go of this employee who shouldn't have been there, and turn the revenue around for that next month. So this bad hire cost my client about $40,000 to $50,000 in revenue for the month. Now, yes, that sucks that it cost that much, but we caught it fast, and the next month he was able to get back up into the correct range where his revenue normally is. And this mistake, if it had been left unchecked, this could have turned into a $200,000, $300,000 mistake where he kept the employee around for months and months and months. So it's really important to have the proper numbers in place so that you can troubleshoot what's going wrong in the business. Now, there's one missing piece to all of this. Let's say you're growing, you're working on the business, not in the business. This applies even if you are working in the business. But the thing is growth is not just enough. there needs to be profit there too. That's why we use the profit first cash management system with all of our clients, because we want to make sure that growth is actually profitable and you're able to take home more than enough from the business. I've had some clients where they are paying their employees more than they're being paid. They're barely getting by with their own personal bills, or maybe they are comfortable in what they're getting paid, but it's very sporadic and they don't get anything above their normal relied on pay. The idea with profit first is instead of your revenue minus your expenses equaling profit and you having to kind of wait for those pennies at the end of the day and call that profit, we set aside your profit first. So we take your revenue minus your profit, set that aside, and that equals your expenses. So now you have to learn how to run the business with what's left over. And in the meantime, your personal pay, your taxes, and some real profit are all covered while you are also covering the business's expenses. This is done really simply through an envelope type system. I don't know if you've ever seen, this is popular in the older generation where they would have an envelope of cash for each category in their life. So like a groceries category, an eating out category, a kids category, things for the kids. And in those envelopes was literal cash. And that's how they know. Some people still do this today, but it's just more uncommon since we have cards. But it's kind of that same concept, but for your business and in bank accounts. So for this, you're going to need 5 bank accounts. The first is your income account, and that's where all of your deposits go to. So we put all of your income to the side so it's not getting mixed in with your expenses. The next bank account is the profit account. So this is what we are setting aside, labeling specifically as profit that you get to distribute on a quarterly basis. The next account is the owner's pay account. This is the account that ensures you are getting paid regularly, whether that's W-2 or distributions or whatever, I don't care. This is to cover your work inside the business in the day-to-day. The next account is the tax account. We all know we're supposed to be setting aside for taxes, and yet April 15th comes, our accountant tells us how much we owe, and we want to throw up a little when we find out. So that's why we have a tax account, is to make sure you are setting aside for those taxes. And when that tax bill comes, it is no sweat because the money is already there. And finally, we have the operating expense account. This is the account that money gets put into last. Now you are able to see what you are actually able to spend. What can you afford? Can you buy that new van? Can you afford that new hire? Can you afford that bigger space to rent? Your bank account is now going to be able to tell you that instead of you having to sift through financial reports in QuickBooks trying to make heads or tails of how much money you actually have to spend. So with this system, you are literally guaranteeing that you are profitable by putting money aside into an account labeled profit. You don't touch it until the end of the quarter when you take half as a bonus distribution to yourself. This is how you ensure that you are profitable and you are not overspending in the business. So this was a really cool win actually with one of my clients. They have a very seasonal business where the last 4 or so months of the year is when they get a huge influx of revenue. That's when most of their revenue comes. They have to hire on a bunch of subcontractors. And every year they were having to use a checking line of credit and put $150,000 on this checking line every year just to get ramped up and going in their busy season. Once they implemented Profit First with me, we did a review a year later as I was doing check-ins with them. And after their busy season, they actually didn't have to go into their checking line at all. We had paid off the balance of the checking line from the year before, and they had enough money set aside in a special account I helped them set up with the right percentages. They had enough money in that account to get them ramped up and basically be their own checking line of credit. So just with the Profit First system, they were able to stop relying on banks and self-fund their busy seasons every year now. So having all of these pieces in place in terms of the 4 pillars, the metrics, and profit first, that all is what's going to actually lead you to true freedom in your business. This is kind of like my client, Kaylin. She came in and she was an independent graphic designer at the time. She really wanted to turn into an agency model and not have to be doing all of the graphic design work, but she really didn't know how to get there. She had a lot of different opportunities of how she could build revenue, different paths she could have taken, but she wasn't really sure how to make a straight line to her goal. By the end of working with us in 6 months, she had her profit first system in place. She was able to pay in cash for her new fancy big Mac computer for her designing. And then she also started an agency at that point. Now she has an agency with a partner where they're a full design agency. They do full websites, full branding, full logo, full everything. And now that was her dream. Like, she has now achieved her dream, what she had envisioned when she started working with us. And that's all because we just had to get in these simple principles of having profit first in place so she knew what she could do financially. And then once we organized her in each of these pillars, even though she was a one-woman show to start off, she was able to better organize those pillars and skyrocket into being an actual agency owner with people under her. This also reminds me of my client, Chris. He's an engineer and he was working full-time day to day and then had his own engineering firm on the side with his wife. We worked together for a long time with it just being on the side. We were able to grow his side business 125% in 4 months. And then eventually it got to be so consistent and so much work, he ended up quitting his day job. And now his firm completely pays for their lives. It's him and his wife, like I said. And now just from this business, they're able to support themselves, support their kids going into college and getting older and that fun season of life. But now they have complete control of their lives and of their schedules, and they're no longer tied to the stability they thought they needed from a day job with him in it. And really all we did here was we implemented profit first so that they could really tell when was he able to quit his job, how much money were they able to take from the business towards their personal bills. They knew exactly where they stood financially. And then with the 4 pillars, we were able to optimize each pillar to make it run as efficiently as possible, even with just the 2 of them in that business, so that they now have a smooth operating system and know exactly what they need to be doing on a weekly basis to keep growing their business and keep their financial freedom with their business. Now, as you can see, those are 2 pretty different businesses, right? A graphic designer and an engineer. But the thing is these principles can work in any industry because it's business basics. Business basics are business basics. It's not going to change from business to business. Yes, every industry has its quirks and its nuances because profit is profit, right? You're either profitable or you're not profitable. You can't really argue with that. It's the same in every industry. And at the end of the day, I think every business owner kind of has the same personal goals with their business. And that's usually to have freedom from the business. Yes, they want to be able to work in the business. Most people enjoy what they're doing with their business, but they want to be able to step away when they need to. That's what makes me so happy with working with my clients, is seeing how they can finally start taking vacation. I'm telling you, every single one of my clients has now experienced finally getting to take some days off when they weren't able to before. All right, so before you go, I have a question for you. Are you ready to stop being trapped in your business? If you're serious about building a business that runs without you, our team here at Matterhorn can help. We've helped business owners in over 40 different industries add 50 to 500K in profit to their bottom line while working less. Click the link below to book your free profit assessment today. It only takes about 45 minutes and it could change everything for your business. And if you want to see profit first in action, we have this video showing you exactly which bank accounts you need to open to guarantee your profitability. You can check that out here.